Well, it depends which one it is.
No, you're right.
Okay, and your
Thank you very much for coming. I'd like to ask you if you please check your cell phone and see that it's in silent mode. And we'd also like to ask that you not use your phone for photography or videography because it's distracting. Radhe Vrindavan Parameshwari Krishna Panu Devi Pranamami Hari Hari Mahanshako Tabhyascha Prabha Sindho Yevacha Padidanam Paramebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. We're looking at Bhagavad Gita, chapter 13, starting with text 12. Amanitvam madam nitvam ahimsa kshantir arjanam atrayo pashanam shocham styriam atma atma vinigra indriyarteshu vairagyam anaham grava evacha Shamra Mritudra Vyadhi Uppadoshan Darshan Asaktir Anavishvanga Putra Dava Grahadishu Nityam Jasana Chittattvam Ishtanishto Patishu Mai Chananya Yogena Bhaktiravya Chardani Vivikta Desha Seditvam Adatirtha Sansari Adhyatma Jnana Nitya Tvam Tattva Jnanartha Darshan Etaj Jnanam Iti Proktam Jnanam Yadatam Yata. The Lord said, humility, pridelessness, nonviolence, tolerance, simplicity, approaching a bona fide spiritual master, cleanliness, steadiness, self-control, renunciation of the objects of sense gratification, absence of false ego, the perception of the evil of birth, death, old age, and disease, detachment, freedom from entanglement with children, wife, home, and the rest, even-mindedness under pleasant and unpleasant events, constant and unavoided devotion to me, aspiring to live in a solitary place, detachment from the general mass of people, accepting the importance of self-realization, and philosophical search for the absolute truth. All these I declare to be knowledge, and besides this, whatever there may be is ignorance. The Prabhupada comments that this is the process, or this describes the process of knowledge by which to get out of material entanglement. The embodied soul is entrapped by the body, which is a casing made of the 24 elements. And the process of knowledge as described here is the means to get out of it. Of all the descriptions of the process of knowledge, the most important point is described in the first line of the 11th verse. Mai Chananya Yogena Bhaktir Abhyabhicharani. The process of knowledge terminates in unalloyed emotional service to the Lord. So if one does not approach, or is not able to approach, the transcendental service of the Lord, then the other 19 items are of no particular value. But if one takes to devotional service in full Krishna consciousness, the other 19 items automatically develop within him. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam, Yasyasti bhaktir bhagavat yakinchana sarvargunes tatra samasate sudha. All the good qualities of knowledge develop in one who has attained the stage of devotional service. Principle of accepting a spiritual master, as mentioned in the 8th verse, is essential. Even for one who takes to devotional service, it is most important. Transcendental life begins when one accepts a bona fide spiritual master. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, clearly states here that this process of knowledge is the actual path. Anything speculated beyond this is nonsense. So, these are items of knowledge. That is to say, items for the cultivation of transcendental knowledge. The Lord is giving a list. And Srila Prabhupada comments that of all the items, if you want to chant japa, why not just chant japa? Otherwise, you're either being attentive to the Bhagavatam or inattentive to the holy name. Neither one is fine. That is to say, holy name or Bhagavad Gita. So these items, most important, Srila Prabhupada comments, is ananyena yogena bhakti rakyamicharani, to be engaged in the unalloyed devotional service of Krishna. This is the goal of knowledge, to be engaged in one's transcendental, eternal function of devotional service to Krishna. Otherwise, what are we doing? We're humble, we're clean, we're aware of the problems of birth, death, disease, and old age, but we're missing the point of life. So that's not going to be all that fruitful. One has to know the goal and be serious about achieving that goal. Otherwise, the other items are, as Prabhupada says, of no particular value. But when one is engaged in devotional service, then these other items have utility or importance. The other point Srila Prabhupada highlights is Acharya Upasana. Acharya means the bona fide spiritual master. Acharya Upasana means one should approach a bona fide spiritual master. Adho Brahmashram. Otherwise, as stated in Bhakti Vasamrita Sindhu in Active Devotion, the process of devotional service doesn't give the connection with Krishna is not really established. Just like Arjuna, of course he was connected with Krishna, but until he surrenders to Krishna, Bhagavad Gita doesn't really begin. Krishna says something, Arjuna says something, Krishna has his opinion, Arjuna has his opinion. Nothing is going to be resolved in that way. But then Karpanya Dosho Bhagatashrabhava Prishchami Tvam Dharma Samudra Cheta Prishchayasyam Mishtritam Puritane Shishyastena Shayamam Kam Prapannam. Arjuna says, Arjuna admits Dharma Samudra Cheta. Because of my weak-heartedness, I am confused about what my duty is. I don't know whether I should fight, head off to the forest. I don't know. I'm confused about my duty. So, Shishya Steha. Now I want to be your Shishya. Shishya means disciple. It comes from the verbal root shas, shastatu. Shastatu has to do with control. Just like we have shastra, but the rules or the Vedic directions by which we're supposed to be controlled. And if we don't accept shastra, then there'll be shastra. Weapons. And shishya, disciple, one who agrees to be controlled by the spiritual master. If one wants to be a disciple and still be independent, then he's contradictory in his desires or understanding. It's not that I keep my independence and accept the spiritual master as a matter of community status, compliance with some expected trajectory in religious life, or according to family conventions. That's not very useful. Or not useful at all. Prapanna. Prapanna means surrender. Tasmat gurum prapadyeta vigyasu shredutam. One who's seriously wants to understand the ultimate benefit in life should surrender to the spiritual master. Vigyasu shredutam. The Acharyavan Purusha Veda, person who has a bona fide spiritual master, is understood to know everything. He may not know everything from day one, but if he takes up this process, he'll understand everything. And it's required. Tad vijnanartam sadhurumeva abhigacche. If one wants to get the benefit of realization, not just book knowledge, but genuine understanding, then one must approach a bona fide spiritual master. Vijnanartam lumeva abhigacche. Gacche is imperative. One must. It's not one may. One must. Anyone can read the books, anyone can chant Hare Krishna, everyone will benefit. But if one seriously wants to advance in the process, then one must accept an acharya and a spiritual master. Shabde parejanishnatam brahmani samashra. Bona fide spiritual master means, first of all, Shabdik. He must have heard from his spiritual master, not that he just declares now I'm the spiritual master. Or Shabde means that he's learned in the transcendental science. Shabde for the Nishnata. And he must have taken shelter of Krishna. He must be dedicated to Krishna. One time Srila Prabhupada explained, if you want to find a bona fide spiritual master, you have to find someone addicted to Krishna. Addicted to Krishna. So, not some impersonalist, not some mental speculator, not someone who invents something, but who's speaking the same message found in the Shastras, the same message that's coming through the parampara system, through the disciplined line. And someone who's following, someone who's taken shelter of Krishna is actually following the process, not just talk. So to such a person, that means not just by sentiment, oh, such a nice guru, such piercing eyes and such an impressive beard, and he speaks so nicely. Not like that. Someone who knows the science of Krishna, and who's following the science of Krishna. Tadvigyan sadhu. This also fits with the first island of knowledge, Amanitva. Amanitva means humility, not to be puffed up, but to reverence how it's feeding back. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Okay. I think that's okay. Amanina, Mamadena. Amanina means, humility means that one should not be anxious to have the satisfaction of being honored by others. Material conception of life makes us very eager to receive honor from others, but from the point of view of a man in perfect knowledge, who knows that he's not his body, anything, honor or dishonor pertaining to his body, is useless. One should not be hankering after this material deception. People are very anxious to be famous for their religion, and consequently sometimes it is found that without understanding the principles of religion, one enters into some group which is not actually following religious principles, and then wants to advertise himself as a religious mentor. As for actual advancement in spiritual science, one should have a test to see how far he is progressing. He can judge by these items. The beginning of knowledge is humility. If we're puffed up, what will we learn? I saw an Ayurvedic medical text one time. I forget whether it was Charles on one of the Ayurvedic texts. And there was a list of people that a doctor shouldn't treat. One of them was a person who's going to die. No point trying to cure a person who's going to die, a terminal patient. And there were other patients that one should try to treat. And one on the list was Vaidyamanina, someone who thinks he's a doctor. Vaidyamanina. he thinks he's a doctor, he won't listen to you. He knows already what the best treatment is. So no use taking him on as a patient. So no use taking someone on as a disciple if he already knows everything. Why is he approaching you? Prabhupada, sometimes people would ask Srila Prabhupada some question, have you seen Krishna? Whatever challenging question. And Prabhupada said, if I tell you, will you believe me? And of course the answer is no. Then what's the use? Why are you asking? Tadviti pranipati pariprashne vasena uparakshantite again and again. One should approach a person in knowledge with surrender and humility, pranipata. And then with relevant questions, not challenging questions. Questions asked for the sake of understanding. In this way, one should become a servant of the spiritual master, because the spiritual master is the representative of Krishna. Acharya Mahamajaniya Navamani Takahij. One should never be envious of the spiritual master. One should understand that he's the representative of Krishna. Acharya Mahamajaniya. Krishna said he's me. Of course, we understand the spiritual master is not the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But he's as good as the Personality of Godhead, because he's the servant of the Personality of Godhead. Prabhupada said there's Krishna the Master and Krishna the Servant. Krishna the Master is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and Krishna the Servant is the devotee who's engaged in the service of the Lord and giving knowledge to others. He's Krishna the Servant. Either way, Krishna in different manifestations. So, Tadvijnanartam Sadhuvamima Vidyashchit. So, Amanitva, Adambitva, same thing, not to be arrogant. And ahimsa. Non-violence is generally taken to mean not killing or destroying the body. But actually non-violence means not to put others into distress. People in general are trapped by ignorance in the material concept of life. And they perpetually suffer material pains. So unless one elevates people to spiritual knowledge, one is practicing violence. One should try his best to distribute real knowledge to the people, so that they may become enlightened and leave this material entanglement. That is not violence. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said that and Prabhupada said it here, if we're not giving people Krishna consciousness, that's violence. That's violence. We're not doing them a favor. Whatever we may do to encourage or assist them in their material life doesn't actually solve their problem, and it only encourages them to think that there's some material solution that will make life very nice, and so they don't need to surrender to Krishna and engage in the service of Krishna. And therefore, although one might think that one is doing great philanthropic work, humanitarian work, relief work, this work, that work, for the upliftment of people, or the upliftment of animals, or the upliftment of somebody, actually one is committing violence. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur had a term, harm-giving kindness. One is trying to be kind, but actually one is committing violence, doing harm. Prabhupada gave the example personal experience that there was some boy who had cholera. And so the doctor said the boy would have to fast. While the parents were away, the boy asked his brother, "I'm so hungry, could you just give me a little cake?" And so the boy would ask for that. But then the sick boy became more sick, and the parents came home and beat the other boy. He was trying to be kind, but he was doing harm. I have another example from European history, that at the end of the Second World War, the Allies liberated the Nazi concentration camps, and they were appalled to see prisoners who were like skeletons. They were emaciated, they had simply been working but not being given proper food. And so you've seen the pictures, I suppose. They look like skeletons. And the Allied soldiers felt such compassion for these poor people that they just spontaneously were taking out their, what do they call them, sea rations?
Rations.
Yeah, their rations. You know, they get some food to take with them out on their missions. They just spontaneously were just throwing them to the groups of prisoners. And poor people hadn't eaten. But among those prisoners were some doctors, and the doctors were frantically trying to stop the prisoners. Don't take it. Don't take it. Because you've been starving, and this is high-powered, protein-packed rations for the soldiers. If you try to eat this, you'll die. But naturally, prisoners were so hungry that they didn't listen. Maybe someone listened, but for the most part, they didn't listen. They just gratefully took those packages. And these same people who survived all the way to the day of liberation of the camps died by the generosity of the Allied soldiers. So this was harm-giving kindness. So we think that we're doing something to help people, and instead we're causing them harm. So actually the philanthropic work, the humanitarian work, the education, the housing, the this, that, it doesn't address the real problem. It doesn't direct people to the real problem or the real solution of life. According to their karma, they must suffer. You can intervene with your get the problem, throwing food at the problem, throwing this or that at the problem. But they'll suffer in their own deaths. I was traveling on a train in India one time. There was that big earthquake in Gujarat some years ago, you remember?
Year 2000.
Year 2000, yeah. Big, terrible earthquake in Gujarat. And I was traveling in a bogie with one woman who happened to be there, was a professor. And she'd been sent by her university to study what was going on. And in particular, the central government had allocated a fund for the sake of these people, because their homes had been flattened, they had no proper running water, everything was disaster. So the central government had allocated a big fund. And this professor was deputed to study and see what happened. And she told me the central government gave the money to the state government, Right, so I figured, okay, I already know the rest of the story. She said, no. Actually, everyone miraculously got the money in their hand. And then what happened? The liquor wells moved in. Because these people are so miserable. So they're good customers for alcohol, because they're in such misery. And so the liquor sellers wound up getting the money. Well, we may think that by our material efforts we'll solve the problems of this material world. But the world is certified by Lord Krishna to be dukkha, a place where there must be misery. It can't be avoided. According to our karma, there'll be more misery, less misery, but there must be misery. Birth, and that's mentioned in a later item in this list. Chapter number 2, Jayadvaita, dukkha dosha. One should always be cognizant of these four miseries of material existence: birth, death, old age, and disease. They must be there. We may solve, I think when I was younger, they were campaigning for funds to wipe out polio. Well, they wiped out polio pretty much. And now, and with tuberculosis. I think tuberculosis is now also there. And so is cancer. Now we're campaigning to wipe out cancer. So that when cancer is wiped out, the next disease can take its place. Disease can't be stopped. Death can't be stopped. Old age can't be stopped. And birth can't be stopped. They're trying. But they can't. So, and then someone says, well, no, you may be just a pessimist. You're saying that it's dukkha, but there is happiness here. At least there's whatever happiness there is, let us enjoy. And then Krishna says, Shashvata. Whatever happiness is here is temporary. Therefore, an intelligent person doesn't stay in this material world. He goes back home, back to Godhead. Samasiddhim Paramahapata. Oh, Krishna consciousness movement is meant for that. There are plenty of mundane welfare organizations whose mission is to provide housing for the homeless, to provide clothing for those who have no sufficient clothing, to provide food, to provide medicine, to provide this, to provide that. That's not the mission of the Krishna consciousness movement. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is described Mahavadanya Avatar, the most magnificent incarnation of Krishna, the most famous, magnanimous. But he didn't open any hospitals, didn't open any orphanages, didn't open any chicken farms, didn't open any. He distributed the holy name of Krishna, which is the actual, the actual cure for the disease, the condition of life. That's the mission of Chaitanya. Not to patch up the material world and make it as far as possible secure, but to awaken us that this is not your real life, this is not your real home. It's meant for Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare Rama, Hare Rama.
Any questions?
First, my correction, it was year 2001.
2001, okay, we're off by a year.
And the question is, you mentioned about the shishya, like the shishya, he has to be
Future.
the disciple, shishya.
Shishya.
He has to be controlled by the spiritual master. So, in what sense, like what is that control we are talking about?
What is that control? Actually, the control is that you should dedicate life and soul to the service of the spiritual master. That's the actual control. Not just some limited, all right, I'll do this, I'll do that. I'll offer namaskars. I'll give some action. But actually, that he gives his life. Complete control. That's real shishya. Brahmachari Guru Guru Brahmacharis were sent to the Guru, and there they learned how to be like menial servants of the spiritual master. One time Srila Prabhupada was sitting with some disciples. Someone asked Prabhupada, what is the position of the disciple? Prabhupada turned to the disciples and he answered. Disciples said, servant to the Prabhupada. Prabhupada said, menial servant. Menial servant means to carry out any low task and the spiritual master. Krishna and Balaram, the Supreme Personality of God, collecting finally their guru. Means first of all one has to agree. No gambling, no intoxicants, no meat eating, no illicit sex. That much control is required. No gambling, no intoxicants, no meat eating, fish, eggs, and no illicit sex. And positively to chant. Prescribed number of times. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Not that I just say that I get a name and do whatever I want. One has to agree to all of these principles. So why? Because Yesham Tantakatam Papam Janana Pumpahana Tepan Vimoharimuta Presentema. Who can engage in Krishna's service? A person has come to the end of sinful activities. Who's done that. And what are the main sinful activities? Gambling, meat eating, intoxicants, illicit sex. So if one wants to seriously make progress on the spiritual path, one has to give these things up. Then one can be free from illusion and duality and engage in the service of Krishna. Okay?
Right, Shaman. We keep reading this statement, one should not be envious of the spiritual master. But how does one become envious of the spiritual master?
It's Jayadvaita, simultaneous. This contamination is very strong. That one becomes envious, even of one's guru or one's son. Sometimes we've probably mentioned, sometimes the father becomes envious of the son and wants to enjoy the son's wife. There's some nasty histories like that. How is it possible? Mind is so strong. When one becomes envious of the spiritual master, why is he getting all the adoration? Why is everyone bowing down to him? Why is everyone following what he says? How is he better than me? saying is, a little learning is a dangerous thing. As soon as one knows a little Sanskrit, he thinks he knows more than his guru. As soon as he's read some books, he thinks he's more advanced. And envy comes. Why do I have to be under his control? The disease of the conditioned soul is this desire for absolute independence. Now you surrender to a guru, that means you surrendered. No, I don't just do whatever I think, I'll do what you tell me. What is Jayadvaita do? And he thinks, well, why should I do what he tells me? Okay. Yes. What are we doing there?
Maharaji, you said the main purpose is to spread Krishna consciousness. The main purpose.
Oh, I'm half deaf, so I hope someone's listening who can repeat for me. Or maybe you have a second microphone.
I can try to be a bit louder.
That helps, yes.
Maharaji, you said the main purpose is to preach. But now, in the current time when we are bound by civic law, for instance, even if we go for Harinam and we try to preach, we are controlled by a law that you cannot do that. And
even if you go out to preach, you're told by the law that you can't do that?
yes, we cannot do that.
Oh, that's been going on since time immemorial. In the 1960s, they told us that. In the 1970s, they told us that. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Kali, told them that. But we can carry on anyway.
They always want to know.
Ooh, very loud.
So they always want to know the decision makers that what good we are doing to the society. What is our
What good are we doing? I think I understood you better without the microphone.
So how useful we are to the society? What good we are
Of what good, of what use?
Yes, we are.
This is utilitarian philosophy. Okay, if you do something good, then you're tolerable, you're useful. If you help with education, if you help with food, if you help with getting kids across the street, if you do something for orphans or old ladies, if you do something useful, then we appreciate you. Otherwise, if you're just helping people get out of material existence and go back to God, what's the use of it? Because they're ignorant. They want to know what you're doing to make this a better world. They want to patch up the Dukkaliya and have you, and you're useful if you help them. So this is their lack of knowledge. Saraswati Thakur said the person who's ringing the bell in the temple is doing more for people's welfare than the person who's distributing food or opening hospitals or who's the greatest humanitarian philanthropist. From their mundane point of view, they think, oh, this is really great work, they're great people. But from the point of view of Vedic knowledge, no, that's superficial. There's an expression in medicine, treatment is symptomatic. Doctors ever told you that treatment is symptomatic? It means they can't really cure the disease, so all they can do is treat the symptoms. That means superficial. We're not interested in offering symptomatic treatment. We want to go to the root of the disease. So they may or may not understand that, but we're not here to please them, to, what's the word, match their expectations. They're dullars, and we're not interested in having them set the agenda. Our agenda is set by Krishna. And it's set by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, set by the acharyas, not by the good-witted politicians or others.
But we have this responsibility to maintain a reputation because they otherwise look at reputation.
We have a responsibility to maintain our reputation.
Prabhupada's reputation.
And Prabhupada's reputation. Prabhupada was the first one who had a responsibility to maintain his reputation. How many hospitals did he open? How many clinics? How many welfare organizations? He didn't do anything. He distributed Vedic knowledge. And he's famous all over the world. He doesn't need to match the expectations of materialists for the sake of reputation. But we're not interested in reputation. Chaitanya Charitamrita said, your reputation is to be famous as a devotee of Krishna. You've heard of Harvard University. You have. Do they have a good reputation? They do, don't they? How many meals do they serve every day? How many homeless shelters have they sponsored? How many flu shots do they administer? They don't do anything like that. How are they respected? They're respected because people think they give first-class education. And people give them money, they're Harvard University's filthy rich. People give them respect, Harvard professor, Harvard student. Respect, money, everything. And they don't do any of that welfare work. They give education because that's what they're meant to do. They're an educational institution. So what is our mission? We're the transcendental educational institution, Raja Vidya. We're meant to be the king of education. And therefore we're distributing transcendental knowledge in the form of books. We're going from home to home or place to place, asking people to wake up from the darkness of material things. We're training people to give up material bad habits, not because we're part of the war against alcohol, or the war against cigarettes, or this or that, but because we want people to be purified so that they can become Krishna conscious. Well, in that, everything's included. You become a Hare Krishna devotee, you'll get food, you'll get sufficient clothing, you'll give up alcohol, cigarettes, tea, coffee, illicit sex, all of those things. You'll get everything, but not that you'll start a separate program, an anti-AIDS campaign, anti-homosexuality, anti-drug, anti-this, anti-that. No. Just become a devotee of Krishna, everything will be included. Isyasti bhaktir bhagavad jigeshana survivor Suram, you'll develop all the good qualities of the demigods. Now what more do you want? And we see that practically, those who join the Hare Krishna movement, they give up all these unwanted things. And they become first-class people. So that's our mission. And we should be known for that. And we should do it. We should focus on it. And train people so that they awaken people, and then when people come forward, train them how to be Krishna conscious. We should stick to our knitting. That's in the corporate world, that's also considered a virtue. You stick to your purpose. You don't fall prey to what they call scope creep. Right? Familiar with the term scope creep? Well, we're supposed to build a housing complex, but now that we're building the housing complex, we should really build a bridge to make it easier to get to the housing complex. Now that we've built a bridge, we should fix the roads, and becomes scope starts to creep. So the advice is stick to your mission. So our mission is to spread Krishna consciousness. Incidentally, everything else will come. You don't have to do anything separate. But it's not our business to emulate the Red Cross or the Green Crescent Society or the legions of mundane welfare workers, so that we can get a good reputation. Oh, such nice people. We'll get a good reputation anywhere if we just train people to be Krishna conscious and distribute this knowledge and this Sanatana Dharma.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. You mentioned about Dukkalayam Asashvatam.
It's bad already, and the microphone is worse. Try being just loud and see if that works.
Maharaj, you mentioned about Dukkalayam Asashvatam, but
And
the second part, Asashvatam, we can understand the material world is temporary.
world is temporary.
But in the first half, which is Dukkalayam, as devotees, we're happy to serve the Lord, we're happy to serve devotees.
As devotees, we're happy to serve the Lord, we're happy to serve devotees.
So where does the Dukkalayam apply?
Where is
to
the Dukkalayam? Do you like to get, now this is too loud again, I don't know what's happening, something's changed. And no, this microphone is too loud.
Switch it off.
It's not good.
Yeah, yours is-
My microphone is feeding back.
Mataji, yours is on.
Switch it off.
Or maybe it's
Switch
yours.
off.
But it's Dukkalayam and Shakti. Do you like to get diseased? Do you like to get diseased?
But that is Krishna's plan. As
It may be Krishna's plan. How do you like it?
No, I don't want it.
Do you like to get old and suffer from all the troubles of old age?
We also know that we're not the body, so we shouldn't be.
Ultimately, we're not the body, but how do you like it?
No, I don't like it.
Anyway, it's fine. We know we're not the body, but it's Dukkala anyway. Just like a liquor house, I may not drink, but still it's a liquor house. Right? A burning gap, a burning god. Maybe I'm not going to burn, but it's a burning god. That's the kind of place it is. And what is this place? It's Dukkala. So yes, a person who's chanting Hare Krishna, he gets free from dukkha. But it is Dukkala. And yes, the devotee, although it's Dukkala, he's sukhi, he's happy. Krishna consciousness, and even in Dukkala, he's happy. But he knows he's a Dukkala. And he sees that others who are not Krishna conscious are so. And he knows that he can't fix it by turning some dials and making the suffering less, advancing in scientific knowledge so that we can make this a happy world. He sees this is what it is. And the only way to get free from misery is to become. To know that you're not this body, to know that you're servant of Krishna. So even though the devotee is happy, he wants to make others happy. If he's unhappy, as Prahlad Maharaj said, I have no problem. I can just chant and be happy, very happy. But my unhappiness is that others are turning away from you and suffering.
Maharaj, some things go wrong, so naturally the envious is coming. So how to control the envious?
something goes wrong, envy is coming. Why should envy come? Something goes wrong. All right.
Naturally, I mean, it's not favorable for us.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you think that these things are not favorable, so naturally the envy has come. How to control the envy?
What is their material enjoyment? Why should I be envious? Now, if someone has a better position, someone's richer, someone's more good looking, someone has a more super duper wife,
Yeah.
someone's eating better food, someone's this, that. Why should I be envious? It just means they're stuck more in material existence. Prabhupada told the story about a man who had a wife and a maidservant. And they both came down with a fever. And so the man called the doctor. The doctor gave the report that I've examined both patients. And your wife is all right, just a little fever. But your maidservant is high. She needs attention. So the wife was hearing from the top of the stairs, I demand a recount. She's only the maidservant and I'm the wife, and she has more fever than me. This is our envy. They're more afflicted by the fever of material illusion. And we're thinking, let's be like this. We should, for the person who's happy in Krishna consciousness, what is this? What is there to envy?
Well, there was another point of, you mentioned about speaking and not following. So, what will be the situation that if we just speak and not follow, especially when...
You speak, what will be the situation if you speak but don't follow? Everyone will see it. You'll be preaching and they'll see, here's that hypocrite who preaches one thing and does another thing. And so your preaching will have not much good effect.
And what happens to personally, like...
Well, a hypocrite is not very much appreciated by Krishna. Krishna is looking for sincere service, not for someone who's making a show. Who's one thing on the outside and something else on the inside.
So Maharaj, when we are preaching, like even as a Bhakti Vriksha and, like we are giving classes regular, so as a service, Bhagavata. So there are so many points coming, like there are various points. But then it's not necessary that I would be able to follow all these points straight away, like next day in the sense. So does it mean that I'm hypocrite at that time, or like how does it work?
If we're giving class, we see so many things we're not following. First thing is we should follow at least the basic points. No gambling, no intoxicants, no meat eating, no sex, regularly chanting, like prescribed, getting up early in the morning, following life of Krishna conscious activity. And then whatever's left, all right, we can be honest, I'm working on this. You have to present yourself as Paramahamsa, perfected soul, Siddha, Purush. Even I'm working on this. What's the harm? Maybe you've seen some of the books of Satsrup Goswami. No?
No.
Maybe you should.
At least except that...
Prabhupada Vedanta, of course. He's written many other books, especially books about, not especially, he's written 200 books, including several books about Swami. And there, as a sadhaka, he said this was, you know, I was chanting, but my attention wasn't very good. I was trying to do this, but I was envious, or I was angry, and not posing as a perfect emblem of exemplary life. These are our challenges. And people appreciate that this is authentic writing. It's not somebody who's just standing on a big pedestal and saying, look at me. And it's like, you should, you can be honest. What is the harm? Yes.
Now, I think this connection only, suppose we are trying to preach and we are not there yet, we are following the regulated principles, we are chanting, but people expect us, like you're chanting, you cannot be angry, you cannot, angry.
People expect that we're preaching, we're following the regulated principles. People expect that you can't be angry, you can, same thing. If you get angry, you can apologize. We're trying. Not that we say, yes, I joined the Hare Krishna movement last week and now I'm perfect. We're in a process. And I've benefited in so many ways. And still I have more progress to make. What is the wrong way?
But they start doubting the process. They think what
They
we
may
are
start to doubt the process, but if you're honest, they'll appreciate the process more. If you try to bluff them, what will they think? I'll see. She's making a show. Even kids see that, you know. You tell kids, look at what we're doing in this. Kids are really good at detecting hypocrisy. They're just endowed with that capability. But when they see that you're telling them one thing and you're doing something else, they spot it right away, especially since they want to do it and they're looking for a way to, get their way. So better to be honest. This is the situation. There's so much progress I've made, but I'm trying to make further progress. That's humility also. Yes.
Thanks for coming to Adelaide, Maharaj. We're so fortunate. Following Mataji's question about, and you spoke about philanthropic works, but doesn't the Food for Life like overlap? Because Food for Life looks really good.
It doesn't overlap.
But it's just
Doesn't overlap, it's included. If someone becomes Krishna conscious, they automatically become a vegetarian. You don't have to have a separate campaign, become a vegetarian. Become Krishna conscious, you'll eventually become a vegetarian. You don't have to have a separate campaign. Get free from drugs. You become a Krishna conscious person, you'll get free from drugs. You don't have to have a separate campaign to distribute food to the needy. Come to our temple, we'll feed you. That Prabhupada said actually that there was some, the temple in Bombay was distributing prasadam. Guru Raj Maharaj was giving Prabhupada the report. And Prabhupada said, it's good that you're distributing prasadam, and you should try to increase. He said, but don't go to the poor areas. He said, then it will become karma kandi.
really.
Yes, really. Do not go to the poor areas. Then it will become karma kandi. We're not after, we're for distributing prasadam to everyone, rich or poor. Rich man is also poor. So distribute at our temple and do not go to the poor areas. Jayadvaita Maharaj wrote to Srila Prabhupada. There was a typhoon in West Bengal, in Nadia district, and we went out with the boat and we distributed prasadam, and we got very good publicity. So in the future, when there's an emergency like that, should we do this? And Prabhupada said that we should distribute prasadam at our temple, or where we go for Sankirtan, but not to the emergency spot.
Did he say one time that it should be like a 10-mile radius or something?
Yes, we've heard that, within a 10-mile radius. That means people should come to the temple. They should know for 10 miles, and in India people travel distances like that. They should know that if we come to the Hare Krishna temple, we'll get everything. Just like in, Prabhupada appreciated the Golden Temple in Amritsar, Sikh temple. They distribute food like anything. Anyone can come to there are no beggars in Amritsar. Everyone knows. We can come to the Golden Temple anytime, and they'll give us full belly prasadam, as much as we like. As much as we like. But they don't go out, they don't have trucks and, teams to go to the emergency places or the hosties or something like that. So people know we can come to the Sikh temple and we'll get very nice food. Prasadam, according to the concept. So that was Prabhupada's idea. In fact, in Mayapur, maybe you know there's what they call Sulab kitchen. Kitchen, a big, nice building, many times, like 4 times, 5 times bigger than this, constructed for prasadam distribution, toward the roadside. And Prabhupada said that everyone should be welcome. Hindu, Muslim, anyone, come, sit down, take prasadam. He said, but they should have this, and you should give them as much as they want. But don't allow them to take anything out. He said, then they'll mix it with their fish and it will be enough for us. Or he said, you should check. So if you go there today, you'll see there's turnstiles in the building. I always thought it was for crowd control. It's not. It's so that the devotees could check. You know, you get these old ladies and under their cloth they've got a tiffin and they're carry out, whatever. And this was told to me by Madhu Seviti Prabhu, who was a brahmachari at the time and who was assigned to that service of checking. That people should take as much as they want, shouldn't take any out. Prabhupada wasn't interested in, we go to the orphanage and we dump off some 80 plates or 800 plates of prasadam, and they mix it with who knows what. They should come and take it in our temple. Prabhupada many times said that there should be no excuse, any time, day or night, people should be able to come to the temple. Maybe not day or night, but any people should be able to come. And we should always have full prasadam ready. And if no one takes it at the end of the day, our man will take it. Anyone should be able to come. Prabhupada liked that Golden Temple, big, huge arrangements for prasadam, but not for going to the emergency spot. When they come to the temple, people should get kirtan, pravachan, darshan, sadhusanga, prasadam. That was the idea.
Maharaj, please could you speak a little about devotees like in the congregation and old devotees, new devotees, like a family of devotees. How should Vaishnavas get along?
How should Vaishnavas get along? They should be humble. And they should chant Hare Krishna. How should they get along? They should do more than get along. But at least you try to get along. We get along by seeing that Krishna is our common center. If we try to create some other basis for getting along, being nice or being empathic or this or that, doesn't really work unless Krishna's in the center of the picture. Prabhupada said when Krishna's there, it's like you throw a rock in a pool and out come these concentric circles. You throw another rock and the circles will collide. But if you could throw all the rocks in exactly the same place, all the circles would be clearly in harmony. So we get along in that way. I think the Krishna, everyone is serving Krishna. Is that okay?
Everyone is serving in the center.
Yeah, so Krishna's the center. Someone's serving this way, someone's serving that way. Someone's more advanced, someone's less advanced. But Krishna is the center of interest. So therefore we can appreciate everyone serving Krishna. You know that story about the Hanuman and the squirrel, right? The Hanuman was throwing big boulders to create the bridge to Lanka, and the squirrel was kicking in some dust. And Hanuman's laughing, you know, what are you doing? We have serious work here and you're kicking in some dust. Of course, Ramchandra said, no, his service is as good as your service. According to his size, he's doing it, you're doing it. And Lord Ramchandra equally appreciated. Shall we stop here? Thank you all very much. Hare Krishna.
Jai.
Samaveta Bhaktivinoda ki
Jai. Hare Krishna. Yes. The only time for recording tomorrow.